You see, what I'm telling you is let's take a look at an interdependence, and let's try to rationalize it, and let's try to understand, because what good is all this stuff if we don't understand? First of all, understand that these are the thoughts of the Buddha. These are the thoughts of the Buddha who dwelled in whatever spirit form, physical, it's irrelevant, but dwelled approximately 3,000 years ago. And the thoughts of the Buddha were, you know, such that we can bring them to bear on our lives today. And here's what he's saying, and the factors compared to the 10 worlds of the mind. And for instance, if you meet somebody here, it's one effect. If you meet the same person at Harrah's Casino, it's a different thing altogether. See what I'm saying to you? So, I mean, the same two people, but a completely different result dependent on the circumstances of the surroundings in this particular case. And that's what he's trying to get to you. How do you feel? And how are you going to act today? If you're very hot, sweaty, and tired and bothered, you're going to act one way. And it's because of the weather. You're very hot. You can hardly be. So your reaction to a particular situation is going to be different than if you were comfortable. If you're very cold, it's the same way. So, many times that you come into a situation at your home, you're not aware, maybe the other person has a headache, and you ask a question, and you're cut off very short, or there seems to be an offensive reaction to what you've said. You didn't realize the other person has a headache. You may have the headache. You may be the one who reacts short. So in other words, your conversation that day and the results of the conversation become dependent on something that you have no control over, namely a headache. You're just not going to react the same way without the headache as you would if you didn't have or did have one. Last night I had a terrific thing, and this, I was so happy because this fits in so well with what we're talking about today. It's kind of cause and effect, or how things are interdependent on other things, that things just don't happen in and of themselves. Everything is dependent on something else. I had an opportunity last night. I called in with talking to a very good friend of our television network and a good friend from New York. I had hoped that when we were in New York speaking last week, we would have seen him. He was not there. We treasure his friendship, Joan and I both do, and I know you would. I would pray someday that he can come here. Maybe someday he will. His name is Mustafa Zaim, and Mustafa is from Lebanon. He is actually the coordinator for the United States when the United States needs to talk to some of the Arab leaders, such as Yasser Arafat. I thought at one time, he told me this, that, you know, well, yeah, sure. And then I saw the writing in the Washington Post was a full page about Mustafa. When I talked to him last night, I said I was so disappointed that you weren't there. And he said in this magnificent voice that he has, Bill, I was in Moscow. And he is conducting work for the United States government in Moscow and some other things. So we got to talking. When you see Mustafa in person, he is, how would I describe him? He is a man of the East in his complexion and so forth, a man of great wisdom, and he has his beads in his hand as he speaks. It's just a wonderful person. And he said that one of the things that he has been so impressed by recently was the work that I did here on the David Koresh thing. And he said he attended an international symposium on fundamentalism. Fundamentalism as it applies to not only the Middle East and the Arab world, but fundamentalism as it applies to all sections of the world. But he said, Bill, he says, I'd rather not call it fundamentalism as much as I would refer to it as literalism. And he said, really, because basically what you're teaching is fundamental to survival. But the problem is the interpretation of the great documents of what we call God literally. And as I listened to him and I heard this beautiful man and his wisdom come in, he said, I stay neutral. He said, he said, because if you start making statements, he said, then you seem to have to do something. He said, I take a position about literalism, but I don't take a position about Arabs or Jews or Christians. He said, but let me tell you something. And then he shared this with me, which goes hand in hand with what Buddha was saying. And it's so fundamentally wise. And I think probably you never heard it before, because I know it struck me right to my soul, and I said, I can't wait till tomorrow morning to share what he said. And this is from an Arab man, if you would, Lebanese man. And now look at, as you know, religion is involved in some way or other with every conflagration, with every war, with every horror that goes on in the world. Whatever it is, religion somewhere lurks. And this is what he said. He said, Bill, if Jehovah, the God of the Jews and Christians, is taking the land away from me to give it to the Jews and Christians, and that's what our Bible says. Bill, he said, then what's going to happen is Allah is going to come and take it back. And he said, that is insane. But yet he says, that is exactly what is happening. He said, it has nothing to do with Jews and Christians and Arabs. It has to do with two warring gods, Jehovah and Allah. Because one God, your God, is taking my land away, then my God will have to come and take it back. And I was stunned. It gives me chills. That's it. And that indeed is the essence of the problem of the world. We have created religions all over the place in which our God is the warrior God and says we can invade and take the land. You can hear them when they're born again on television. Go in and take the land for Jesus, Well, if you're taking the land for Jesus, you're taking it away from somebody else. And as soon as their God finds out about it, he's going to get ticked off and he's going to come and take it back from you. See? So isn't that wonderful wisdom? So I'm looking forward. Mustafa said that he is going back to Moscow, but he would be back in August, and he invited Joan and I to come and sit and meet with him before that day that we speak up there. But doesn't this put this into perspective? Here you have the cause. Jehovah takes the land away. Here you have the effect. Allah takes it back. And they both do it violently. See? Because Jehovah got Joshua, take your armies and slaughter all the men and take the women captive, and for those who are virgins you can keep them, but the other ones get rid of, and all of this kind of, this is the Bible. See? So there's a reaction to that, and we can't understand it. Why? What is this all about? And basically, as I heard this and began to understand something that I never looked at. Did any of you ever look at it that way before? It's not people fighting against each other. It's the two warring gods that we have created. And as Mustafa said, Bill, it is completely insane. And if somebody doesn't stop it, it's going to be a conflagration, a horror, and it's all stuff we made up. All stuff we made up. Because there is no Jehovah, there is no Allah, there is only God. So it's good. There's your answer. So when we look and say the changes, we look at this sheet and we see the 10 worlds on the left are the changing aspects of your life. You may, remember when we were going through the 10 worlds of Shakyamuni Buddha and we were teaching, you may have a great feeling of bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is giving to others. Now, just real quickly, I want to just, bodhisattva is giving to others. But your second strong point may be anger. So you may, first of all, want to do for others, but your second is anger. And how does it play itself out? Here, this little thing needs food, and I'm bringing a basket of food over to you, and I'm saying, here. That's my bodhisattva. I'm giving. I'm helping somebody. But at the same time now, after my bodhisattva, my giving has been fulfilled, my second mind power develops. And it starts. You're going to sit around here smoking cigarettes all day. You don't go out. You don't look in the paper. Nobody's going to wait hand and foot on you. I'm getting sick of you. I can't do this every day. You're going to have to learn to do something. So we start beating her up. See? Because of the fact that my first important conscious realm, bodhisattva, has been now drained, now it picks up the second one, and I find myself screaming at her because of the fact that, I have anger as my second part. And this is what Buddha is saying. You're not just a one-dimensional thing. There are so many things. There are so many aspects of your personality that come to play. So you can't just, everybody tries to simplify this. Oh, say this and it'll happen, it'll go away. Just let it die, just don't allow it into your life. But Buddha's saying there's 3,000 different things happening in your consciousness every second. So the 10 factors remain constant. Do you see what they are? Appearance, nature, entity, power, influence, etc. They remain constant no matter which of the 10 worlds we're in at the same time. The 10 factors will have the same effect. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Anger, which is one of the 10 worlds. You see that? That's one of the 10 aspects of the mind. Anger. That will be influenced by appearance. That's one of the 10 factors. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Now, tranquility, that's one of the 10 worlds, will also be influenced by appearance. And how will that work out? Let's try to look and see. Here's two aspects. Appearance, anger. I can't stand the sight of that person. Every time I walks and I get these bad, I can't stand it. It makes me sick to look at. Huh? Here's tranquility. You're a sight for sore eyes. Thank God that you're here. I can see. Same person, but from the one world of anger, I can't stand the sight of them, to the other world of tranquility, you're a sight for sore eyes. I'm so glad you're here. The appearance is the same, but the factor has changed. In other words, the 10 factors, appearance, so forth, show the various ways that the 10 worlds express themselves as we go from one situation and one circumstance to the other. And it is maybe a little technical, a little complex, but you can't go on and willy-nilly run around and say you're going to raise your hands or you're going to say a particular prayer or whatever, and this is going to change. You've got to understand the complexity of it. Shakyamuni, when he became enlightened, dedicated a part of his teachings to something called Huben, H-U-B-E-N. And Huben is the 10 factors, the 10 worlds. See? Because he said it is absolutely necessary for you to know. If you are going to attain Buddhahood or if you're going to attain Christ consciousness, you have got to understand how you work, how your mind works, how it reacts, and the factors and the conditions that cause you to react the way you do. Because you do. You do. If you take your chart, you can get a better understanding of the 10 factors. You see, in the 10 factors, you'll see 1, 2, and 3, which are appearance, nature, and entity. What they really are our old friends that Buddha talked to us about, Ki, Ku, and Chu. Ki, Ku, and Chu. Ki is the physical, what manifests itself that you can see. Ku is the invisible, and Chu is the whole. Very interesting way of seeing that sometime. Sheet of paper, okay? Side you can't see is Ku. Can't see it. Side you can see is Ki. It's very important that you have Ku and Ki. You can't just have one side of a piece of paper. Can you imagine such a thing? It only has one side. Where's the other side? It doesn't exist. Can't be, can it? It's impossible. You have to have Ku. You have to have the invisible part, and you have to have the visible part. So the Ku, which is invisible, and the Ki, which is visible, make up what? The paper, which is Chu, the whole. And that's exactly what Buddha's trying to tell you, that you have a physical part that you can see, but you also have an invisible part that you can't see. And the two are very important to make up that which is you, that unique personality that is you. That unique personality that we have been willing to submit to them. that unique personality that we have been willing to submit to the system to be changed. Do we come into churches by the thousands and somebody stands up and says, think like I do, act like I do, everybody get up when we say get up, sing Amazing Grace, what a wretch am I, sit down, sign the card, and you'll all go to heaven. And all of your individuality is destroyed. All of your ability to think as an individual is taken away from you, and you become one of them. And you come in, and you go out, and you get up, and you get down, and you believe because you must. Why must you? Because you're afraid. You're afraid if you don't believe, you're going to hell. They never told you you are sitting in hell right now when you're singing Amazing Grace, what a wretch am I. It's beautiful. You know, they always play it. Amazing Grace, how sweet, that saved a wretch like me. What is this wretch? Jesus Christ says you're the light of the world. The kingdom of God is within you. You can do better than him. That's what he said. They're saying you're a wretch. He says you're not a wretch. You're something special. But if you're something special, you won't be part of the mob anymore. And they don't want that. You've got to be part of the mob because the government survives when everybody responds. The individual, as each one of you are, will not report, will not submit to the group, to the mob. So Shakyamuni Buddha talked about these 10 physical factors. Now, you talk about inherent cause. You see number 6 there in the 10 physical factors which says inherent cause? That means there is something within your nature that causes you to act the way you do. And it could be placed in there by your parents, it can be placed in there by your church, it can be placed in there by the government, no matter what it is. What I'm talking to you about has nothing to do with religion, has nothing to do with spirituality, has nothing to do with beliefs. What I'm talking about, what Buddha talked about, you can go into any institution of learning in the United States and be taught by a psychoanalyst, a psychologist, you can be taught by, psychology, whatever. What I'm talking about is the operation of the human mind. This is the way it works. If somebody hears that Shakyamuni Buddha said this, oh, I don't think we should listen to this. If on the other hand, a psychoanalyst or a psychologist gets on television and says, oh, isn't this wonderful, what a discovery. This is something that was discovered by this voice from the wilderness 3,000 years ago. Before there were psychologists, before there were psychiatrists, ask yourself, what college did Shakyamuni Buddha go to learn this? And we deprive ourselves of the peace that he was able to bring to people by treating him as some kind of a cult and turning our backs on him as some kind of competing God against Jesus. Shakyamuni Buddha was not a competing God against anybody. Shakyamuni Buddha didn't even believe in an outside God. He simply believed that each one of us who lived on this earth did not have to suffer, that it was not right for the children to suffer. This is what caused Shakyamuni Buddha to be the way he was. He lived in a palace. He was a prince. He had everything. He had gold, he had diamonds, and he walked out of the palace and he saw a little baby that was starving, and he saw an old woman crossing the street and falling down, and then he saw a funeral and he said, what in the world is this? Why are people suffering like this? Why should a little baby suffer? Why is this old person treated this way? This isn't right. And he went through all of your churches, and he went to the Methodist and the Catholic and the Baptist and all of these. He went to all of these churches, and he said, you've got to fast. And he fasted, and he fasted, and he fasted, and he almost died. And they said, well, what have you gotten? He says, I'm hungry. But I've gotten nothing. I don't understand anything. And so Buddha went, and he said, I don't want your churches, I don't want your temples, I don't want your religion, I don't want you to tell me anything, I don't want your teachers. I will sit under the Bodhi tree, and there I will die, or I will understand. And he understood. And he was the type of man who reminded the world, a Buddha has no fist. I come with an open hand. There's never been a war fought in Buddha's name. He was the kind of a man who, when he on his deathbed had eaten food that was bad, had one concern: the person who served the food. That's pretty heavy stuff if you gave food poisoning to the Buddha. I mean, that's not so nice. And he brought the man, he says, bring him to my bedside. And the man came shaken he had caused the Buddha to die. And the Buddha lifted his hand, and he shook and he held the man's hand. And he said, I want to tell you something. Sure, something went wrong. I know that. but it was the best dinner I ever had in my life. Because he couldn't die without making sure that he had not hurt somebody. And this is the one who we say, oh, don't listen to him. So the inherent effect is what is within us. The latent effect is what is caused by what is in us. It sits there waiting. I remember, was it Carl Jung that said, if you take an unwanted child and that child is thrown from pillar to post and not loved and not wanted, the child will grow and the child will forget, and the child will get married and the child will go on with its life. But in the subconscious of that child, there is a memory that never forgets. And Jung said that deep in the subconscious is this little bit of poison, and all it needs is the right stimulus, and it will erupt, and you have a serial killer, a rapist, or a murderer. Just like that. Because the subconscious never forgets. So you have then inherent cause. Something inside of me is making me do this. You have external cause. They are causing me to do this. You have latent effect. I am preparing to do this. And you have manifest effect. I've done it. That's what Adam and Eve is all about. Adam and Eve never existed. There was never ever two people named Adam and Eve. Adam means the earth, the physical body. Eve means the thought process of the mind. The serpent is the spine, which signifies that which is the flesh. So Eve, which is the thought process, receives a temptation, if you would, from the flesh. There's something I want. Eve, when she decides, I have done this, I'm going to do this, she has devoured the fruit. That is the inherent cause and the latent effect. I have decided to do this. When she hands the fruit to Adam, Adam is the earth, the physical part. Adam acts it out. The body acts out the thought process. Nothing that happens in the world can happen unless it happens as a thought first. Doesn't make any difference whether the president drops a bomb on a country. That was first a thought in somebody's mind, which was then acted into creation. Millions of people killed because of a thought. Okay? So the inherent effect, the latent effect manifests itself. So let's look at the remaining three: power, influence, and consistency, which you see. This is a little bit, today, a little bit different. It's almost like a school lesson, but nonetheless, this is what it has to be because we should understand. Power, which is number 4, influence, which is number 5, and consistency, which is number 10. Okay? Power, I get so thrilled and so excited when I do this stuff because this is not, I am no brilliant person to be able to understand. I didn't make this up. But I feel so good that I am able to bring the teachings of the Buddha to people in 1993 and share them in a scientific and educational way. Because he's gotten so much bad press by our Western civilization. Okay, the power is energy. Okay, the power is energy. The potential in your life to achieve or affect something. Power can be expressed either physically or spiritually. So energy is your potential. There is something inside of you which has a tremendous potential, tremendous power. Influence. Buddha said that the influence is produced when the power is manifested, either physically or spiritually. Okay? You will influence something either for good or bad when that power of your personality is unleashed on somebody else or something else. You have to have the power, and then when the power manifests itself, there'll be an influence. This is what Buddha said, quote, influence is the use of thought, word, or deed to create good or evil. But Buddha shows us that the other worlds play an important part in just how the influence and the power act. In some cases, the inherent power is great, but the resulting action is small. So let's say a person, has great power inside, but the result of their life is very small. In others, the inherent power is very small, but the result in their life is very great. Let's think of a couple of people we can think what I'm talking about. Mike Tyson. Tremendous talent, tremendous power. But his effect in his life and on the world is extremely small because something else is in there which has negated his talent and his power and caused the collapse. Remember that there's a great baseball player. They said he had all the talent to be the greatest, probably one of the greatest players, named Darryl Strawberry. Great, tremendous potential, tremendous power, absolutely accomplishes nothing because there's something inside which holds him. So, you know, here's two people with tremendous potential, tremendous natural talent, tremendous natural power. They've accomplished nothing. But here's something with small potential, small power. Mother Teresa. Nothing. No talent, no power, nothing. Accomplishes tremendous things. Because something within. See? So this is what Buddha is saying. See? The inherent power is great. The result is small. The inherent power is small. The result can be great. See, if this person's life state, if Mike Tyson's life state, if Darryl Strawberry, I mean, you can think of a lot of people, you know, that I haven't thought of, but you can think of a lot of people that are famous people, and if their life essence had been greater, they would have accomplished tremendous things because they had tremendous potential. See? So let's real quickly, and I'm going to keep you too long, but let's real quickly, as we try to get to poor Mary, let's real quickly try to separate. You got the spirit, you got the material or the physical, okay? On the material, spiritual side, you have one of the entities which is nature. That's always on the spirit side. On the physical side, you have appearance, okay? Your nature to do something is invisible. But what happens is very material. It then manifests itself into an appearance. Something happens because it came from the invisible part of you. In other words, the ku in you produced the ki. The ku, the nature in you, produces that which is the ki, or the appearance. Okay? The entity that you see on that is power or influence. And that can go on both sides. Entity is power or influence, and that can be on either side, either spiritually or physically. It's an and the inherent cause and the latent effect, inherent and latent, are both spirit. They're inside of you, and the manifest effect naturally is physical. See, and you can go to doctors, you can go to counselors, you can go to churches, you can study, you can meditate, you can blow smoke, you can do whatever you want. You can't change this. This is a fact. This is a cosmic law as sure as the planets were. And now the last of the 10 factors, number 10, is consistency. That means that all of the factors from 1 to 9 make up one. They work in harmony on every situation. Now we get to Mary. Because you've been waiting here about poor Mary, and this is the point. Watch what happens. We give you a little demonstration. Buddha did not particularly write this. He didn't know Mary, but this is what he said. Mary's boyfriend walks out on her. That's the scenario. Okay. Mary's got a boyfriend, and Mary's boyfriend walks out. What is that? That's the external cause. The external cause of what's going on in Mary now is the fact that her boyfriend has taken a powder. He's gone. This external cause then causes in Mary a depression and an anger. Okay? So if you take the external cause, which is number 7 of the 10 factors, it has caused in Mary this depression, which is animal, anger, and hell. Mary has been put into the world of hell because of the external cause now has manifested an internal cause. The external cause, the boyfriend left. The internal cause, Mary is miserable because she is now dwelling in the conscious realm of hell. Mary looks troubled. She's very down. What is that? That's appearance, that's physical factor number one. In other words, the reason that she looks so terrible is because she is feeling so bad inside of herself. And the reason is she's feeling so bad inside of herself, which is inherent, is because her boyfriend has left, which is external. Down to the depths of her being, which is entity or power, she is very, very unhappy. Now she expresses herself, and that depends on her nature. See? She's going to express herself. She's going to work. But her life force is very low. She has tremendous potential. See? And the boss is going to say to the other supervisors, what's the matter? I mean, she's not, you better get her more training. She's not answering the phone properly. She's not doing this right. And, she knows she did good at the training, so you better send her for more training. You could send her to Yale. It won't change nothing. See, because any action that she takes, which is number 5 in the physical factors, which is influence, is going to be determined by what has happened. No matter what you do in your life, in your relationships with your children, in your relationships with nature, in relationships with one another, no matter what you do, it has as a manifest result that cause that was placed by some circumstance that has happened. It may have happened this week. There may be something that happened to you this week which is still not resolved itself, and it is starting to make an inherent cause that is going to have a problem in your relationships with people, the work you do, or your health. Physically, you may get sick. Mary can get extremely sick, and she can go to the doctor, and the doctor can start giving her blood pressure pills, or the doctor can start giving her this or that or the other thing, never knowing that the whole thing has nothing to do with anything physiological, but it has to do because Mary's boyfriend took a powder. So the effect she will have on the situation will be weak, and that's the manifest effect. No matter what she does, it's not going to come out right because of this churning going on inside of her. In other words, what Buddha is saying is when Mary is in the state of hell, every other aspect of her life will be consistent with that state. Everything that she will do will be consistent with the state of hell. Everything. If you go to the movie, boy, that was great. I didn't think it was so good. Huh? Did you hear the new Rod Stewart record? I think he's done better. I don't think it was so hot. Nothing. Nothing. Until the fires of hell are quenched, Mary and everything she does is straight from hell. And in such a state, you'll put into action some devastating causes and future effects. Yes, look at Bernice. Here's Bernice. Her boyfriend walked out on her. She's gone into the depths of hell. She got a call from Jerome. Hey, Bernice, I got 2 tickets to the Rod Stewart. Pick me up at 8. Bang, she's gone. She's boogalooing. Don't you think I'm sexy? Don't you think? Bernice could care less. She's having a heck of a good time. No problem. Because of the nature of Bernice, the latent effect did not drive deep into her. It was a little bit of hurt, waiting for Jerome, Rod Stewart. Who cares? Here we go to the next one. Different person. And so you can't advise, you can't counsel, you can't pray with, you can't meditate with Bernice like you have to with Mary. It's a whole different ballgame. See what Buddha's trying to tell people? Buddha's trying to tell people, and people are saying in churches, don't listen to him. Listen to them. They're molesting people. And Jimmy Swagger's jumping to the fence to Lulu's house and all these guys you're listening to. I got to go to the motel. See, look, in that state is a terrible thing. Let's just carry this a little bit further and we'll be done. Mary, we know what's happened to Mary. All of a sudden, Mary's sitting home, and hell fires are raging inside of her, and then comes a telephone call from a very sympathetic friend, and Mary becomes tranquil. And she may even convince you, say, Mary, what? And I noticed lately, no, I'm fine. You see them come down here? You people come down. How you feeling? Oh, I'm fine. But it's all over, you know. You can see. You're not fine. No, I'm fine, really. Everything's fine. Everything's great. No, how are you? How you doing? Yeah. But you can see it, you can feel it, see. Inside of her is something totally different. And that's what Jesus Christ says. You make the outside of the cup clean, but inside it's filled with all kinds of trouble. See, the important thing to remember in this study of Buddha is even though a person may make subtle changes from moment to moment, the life state will always express itself absolutely consistently. That's consistency in physical factors. You will see it in the way the person looks. When that person looks down, that person will make down causes. That person will experience down effects. And Shakyamuni said, appearance is the beginning. Manifest effect is the end. It is consistent from beginning to end, and it always will be. You may hide it, but it will come out. And it will be consistent. And everything that has caused it, so we did a little thing with Mary and her boyfriend, but this could be something that came from your mother that's still burning as hell deep inside of you. It could be something that came from your father. It could be something that came from your school. I had a lot of stuff that came from my school. That's why I left. I was about 8 years old, and I said, I have a business appointment. And I just walked out the door and headed for the woods for 6 months. Because there was something that frightened me. Well, I had a rejection of the dogma. I had a rejection of the Jesus being crucified as a little child, the blood of the God blood and all of that kind of stuff, so I walked out. And then, you know, I had a problem with the fact of the Jesus and the violent God, and the ladies that were teaching me wore these things that they were hiding inside of these black things and everything. And I just said, I'm getting out of here. So I left. And I'll show you something, however. Let me show you something. As a little child, I saw the black thing and the cardboard and all of this stuff, and it scared the pants out of me. And I didn't like the Jesus being murdered thing by God stuff, so I left. And I was gone for months and months and months, and the truant officers came, and they had the place surrounded, I think. I mean, they were all over the place. Maybe they thought I was killed or something, I don't know. But I'll never forget, they took me to a little orphanage, and a little Catholic orphanage, and I didn't have to stay there. I could go home. I had visiting rights every day. I could go home. But there was a little Italian lady who was a nun, and she had the black thing on and the white thing, and that which I didn't like. And she took me by the hand, and she said, you know what? I said, what? She says, we're going to make it. And I never had another problem from that day on. And I did make it. And I'll never forget her. I don't know who she is, where she is, if she's alive, but she's the first one that looked at me from outside of that black thing and said, we're going to make it. And she didn't care. I had missed 3 or 4 months. So what? She said, you and me will work it out. And we did. I don't even remember what I missed. Something about Shakespeare. Who cares about him anyhow? So the effects, the causes that were put into me had effects up until this day. And I thank God for them because they gave me the power or the understanding to be the revolutionary sort that I am. And maybe I can help for a little bit, you know, in this life and then to explain things. But take what you've heard today from the Buddha extremely seriously. Begin to understand yourself as complex. Begin to understand other people as complex. And then you realize that the only possible way, the only possible road to peace and light in this universe is to sit on the floor, sit in a chair, do whatever you do, and lift yourself up into the higher realms of consciousness to where she dwells. The Buddha said, you must drive yourself into the 9th state of consciousness. And when you drive yourself into the 9th, she lays curled 3.5 times. The sleeping serpent of Kundalini is the female essence of God. She uncurls herself, raises herself, and devours all of the hurts, all of the fears, all of those causes that have made you miserable, and she sets you free. Thank you very much for sharing with me some of the thoughts of Shakyamuni Buddha, and I hope that wherever you are in your town or in your home, you will make the Buddha a treasured word along with that of the Christ and Krishna, that we will learn from these. I was speaking to somebody recently, and I said, the one beautiful thing that I've learned through all of this is the Buddha, the Krishna, and the beloved Jesus Christ are all the same person. And that makes me feel real good. We'll see you.